So when expansion came to the NHL in 1967, we knew that Los Angeles was going to get a franchise, was almost a given. But when this team arrived in all occasions, Oakland, a lot of people figured, hey, this is either going to be a great success or a total failure. Well, the Seals didn't really do much that first season. It wasn't a complete failure, but it was scary because with two big losing streaks during the season, they could barely win 15 games. And despite the best efforts of coach and part-time GM Bert Olmsted, it was rough. Now, the 67-68 Oakland Seals season was their first campaign in the NHL. Now, what was quite a bizarre, ladies and gentlemen, their GM was fired before the team's expansion draft. Now, he took some key players in that selection, but for some reason, the former Chicago representative, a lot of people thought he was going to be there for a while, didn't stay at all. And ironically, GM Bert Olmsted was replaced by, of all people, Frank Selke Jr. in March of 1968. Now, again, the started inaugural season with the great Hall of Fame famer Bert Olmsted as both coach and GM, assisted by Gord Fashaway. The team began the season as the California Seals, but on November 6, 67, the name was changed and later became known as the Oakland Seals. Now, the expansion draft was quite interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because it was mostly, again, original six players. Now, a lot of established stars, Stanley Cup winners, and top players were taken. Now, for any Oakland Oakland Seals completists, just remember here, Charlie Hodge and Gary Smith were the goalies taken. Two dynamite picks: Bobby Bond and Ken Douglas from Toronto, Billy Hickey from New York, Billy Harris, the original, from Detroit, Larry Cahan from the Rangers, Wally Boyer from Chicago, Joe Souza and Bob Lemieux from the Montreal Canadiens system, J.P. Parisi and Ron Harris from the Bruins, Terry Clancy, King Clancy's son, of the Maple Leafs, Tracy Pratt from Chicago, Olt Eriksson, the great defenseman from Toronto, Ron Boehm from the Rangers, Alain Cano from the Blackhawks, Mike Lawton from Toronto, Brian Hextall from the Rangers, and Gary Kilpatrick for the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, the draft included Ken Hicks, Gary Wood, and Kevin Smith, mostly from the MJHL. Brandon Wheatkins was the Ken Hicks key time. Now, the only situation that was unforeseen, very tragic, of course, on January 13, 68, 4 minutes into a game against the North Stars at the Met Center, Bill Masterson was checked by Larry Kahn and Ron Harris and fell backwards onto the ice. Unfortunately, the force in the back of his head hit the ice, causing significant internal bleeding. He eventually lost consciousness and never regained it, and died 2 days later. And of course, the Bill Masterson Memorial Trophy for perseverance in hockey is named after him. Just an unforeseen incident. Now, the Oakland finished the season 14, 42, and 17, scoring only 153 goals. So, put this in perspective, ladies and gentlemen. They could barely score 2 goals a game. They only give up 219. The goaltending was, very strong with Gary and Charlie. Now, goal differential was 66. It wasn't the goaltending, because if you looked that year, LA and Minnesota had given up more goals and made the playoffs, while Pittsburgh had almost gave up the same amount. So it wasn't a goaltender's fault, fortunately. Now, here it gets bizarre, ladies and gentlemen. The Wonder opening 2 games against Philadelphia and Minnesota by 5-1 and 6-0 scores. From then on, they went into a tailspin, winless in 13 games. And the key loss, of course, was an 8-2 defeat at the hand of Detroit. Now, they got back in the winning range and had an upset 2-1 win over Montreal on November 18th, 67, probably one of the most memorable moments for the team that season. Now, from then on, the mediocre continued. The second big losing streak, of course, that year was almost 10 games where the lost a number of contests, but he ended up with a 0-0 tie against Pittsburgh on December 27th, kind of a Christmas gift. And in 4 straight games, he couldn't score a goal, ladies and gentlemen, losing to Montreal after Pittsburgh 2-0, Chicago 3-0, and St. Louis 4-0. Again, not the goalies. Now, they lost 4 straight in the mid part of the season, but at game 63 with a 15, 34, and 14 record, they literally went on a tailspin, ladies and gentlemen. From game 64 to game 74, they didn't win. They lost 8 of those 11 games, tied 3, and biggest loss, of course, was a 9-2 defeat at the hands of the Kings. So if you look at the majority of games they played that season, ladies and gentlemen, they were losing games, 3-1, 4-1, 2-0, 1-0. They were shut out, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games. They were shut out in 13 games. Now, the best performance of the year for a lot of people was, of course, a 6-6 tie against Pittsburgh on March 2nd, 68, where it was a very exciting squad. Again, the 6-0 win against the Kings on January 7th. But it just seemed Christmas was really bad to them. They weren't literally, they were rarely blown out, ladies and gentlemen. They just couldn't score. I mean, lost a lot of games by 1 goal, 2 goals. So at the end of the season, Gary Eamon, the very underrated player, led the team with 44 points, 19 goals. Billy Hickey was their first 20-goal scorer with 21 counters. The great Charlie Burns had 35 points in 73 games. Wally Boyer, 33 points. Billy Harris at 29. And Alain Caron, always a favorite for the East Coast fans, 22 points in 52 games. Now, Kent Douglas, in limited play, had 15 points in 40 games. Wout Eriksson put up solid numbers, as did Bobby Bond, and Gary Smith played 21 games, and Charlie Hodge 58. Now, I must give tribute to Charlie Hodge and Gary Smith, even though they had rough records, and I'll give you an example of what I mean. It's not too often in the history of hockey, NHL hockey, that a player only has a 3.119 average and only wins 2 games of the season. Gary had a tremendous year overall, 2-13-4, but like I said, losing games, being shut out. But Charlie Hodge, in a Herculean effort, a 2.86 average, 13-29-3, with 3,300 minutes played. Again, tremendous Herculean effort. So the big trade, of course, for them was the Kent Douglas trade, when he bought up John Brenneman, Ted Hampson, and Burt Marshall for Kent Douglas, and again the Gary Eamon trade for Brian Hextall and J.P. Parise. It's hard to believe that Parise and Hextall were a California Golden Seal, but it didn't last very long. So again, the full roster that year only had 2 Americans on the squad, all Canadian. Again, Charlie Hodge, Gary Smith, Bob Lemieux, Tracy Pratt, Tom Thornbury, Owen Erickson, Larry Kahan, Jerry Odrowski, Ron Harris, Kent Douglas, Burt Marshall, Bobby Bond, who was the captain on defense. Wingers were Wally Boyer, Gary Eamon, Billy Hickey, Ron Boehm, Alan Carroll, George Swarbeck, John Brenneman, Terry Clancy, Charlie Burns, again, one of the few Americans on the squad, and Jean Cousseau. Now, centers were Billy Harris, Ted Hampson, Larry Popine, Joe Suzri, and Mike Lawton. Again, GM after Puolius was Bert Olmsted and Frank Selke, and Bert Amstel as coach. So a very interesting season. If anybody, any Oakland Seals, California Golden Seals fans want to tell me their memory of that season, but for me, again, Charlie Hodge and Gary Smith, the Herculean effort, because when you're shut out 10 times and you're only giving up 2 or 3 goals a game, can you imagine if you got a good young draft pick, like if let's say somebody with a Sidney Crosby type of give him a chance to play, they could have won easily 25 games that year. Because when you don't score, you're only scoring 2 goals a game. Just winning 15, I think, was Herculean, as we say. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing with our vintage podcast, let us know. Give us a like, comment, or subscribe. And see what we're saying about here, statistics don't really tell everything. Because, again, sometimes 20 goals to your advantage of the season. Let's say the Seals would have scored 20 more goals. You probably would have had 10 more wins. So, that's the way it goes. Give us a like, comment, and subscribe. And like we like to say in the North Shore, keep your stick in the ice. Bye.